I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to the Wednesday edition of Conversations with Al McFarlane. I'm glad to be here. And boy, this is Minnesota. Big snowstorm last night, and it's beautiful outside. A whole bunch of car accidents yesterday. People have to get their snow legs on and their snow driving together, but it's beautiful. It's early. We often dread the Halloween snowstorm, but we were surprised this year with more snow promised as well. But that's what it is. Listen, I'm glad to have as a guest today a new friend, James Lavallee. And correct me if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, Brother James. He's Vice President for Marketing and Sales Development at Effect TV, formerly Comcast Spotlight. And he's on because I wanted to call attention to a powerful resource and opportunity that the Comcast organization is putting in place to support businesses that were hit hard by COVID-19. And Comcast is offering thousands of grants to support grants and equipment and marketing technology resources to support small businesses hardest hit by COVID-19. And obviously that includes Black-owned small businesses. Our businesses were most affected by the pandemic, and we are targets of this response by a project called Comcast RISE. And so, James Lavallee, thank you for being here, first of all. And I want to let you talk about what Comcast RISE is and what this particular specific initiative is so that people know that this resource is available.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me on, Al. I really appreciate it. And so does Comcast and your support for the program. So Comcast RISE, it stands for Representation, Investment, Strength, and Empowerment. And as you were setting it up so well in regards to us being able to provide business services across and really utilize our abilities both at Effective and at Comcast Business specifically, our capabilities to really help the community and these small businesses, which are the lifeblood of the community. As you stated so eloquently, we looked at the small business impact due to COVID and the COVID impact due to small businesses. And truthfully, we as Black Americans have been hit the hardest, and the small business sector has been hit the hardest. So that's why the Comcast RISE program is actually starting with focusing on Black businesses right out of the gate. After that, we will be opening it up to other minorities and people of color, the BIPOC community. But for right now, we are starting out with Black small business owners. So in regards to that, the business services that we're offering are, general marketing, advertising, and media consultation, an actual media schedule, a 90-day media schedule for anybody who has current commercial creative, creative and a media schedule for those folks who don't have commercial creative. A lot of folks don't have commercials. They've never advertised on television before. And also on the Comcast business side, we are doing tech makeovers, for those businesses. So think about the technical infrastructure of certain businesses. And starting in November 28th with the launch of the second program, because this is a multi-year program ending at the end of 2022. So this is every single quarter we're awarding new awardees. So people can apply and reapply if they didn't win, or even if they won one of the awards, they can reapply again. But starting on November 28th, we'll be rolling out our grant program that you were mentioning as well.
I'm Al McFarlane. This is Conversations with Al McFarlane. My guest, James Lavallee, who's Vice President of Marketing and Sales Development at Effect TV, formerly Comcast Spotlight. Let me tell you more about Brother James Lavallee. At Comcast, he's responsible for driving revenue for the company by leading various divisions of the Effect TV marketing team. He includes in his portfolio sales, marketing, creative services, demand generation, and network relations. He also develops the vision, the mission, strategy, and goals for his team of over 200 people there nationwide. James Lavallee has over 20 years of experience in advertising, sales, marketing. He joined Effect TV in 2017. Prior to that, he had a position of vice president, portfolio sales and marketing at NBC Universal. There, he was overseeing the ad sales trade marketing efforts for NBC, USA, Sci-Fi, WWE, and Chiller networks. He's also worked in advertising sales marketing for Discovery Communications, VH1, and ESPN. A BA from Tufts University in Boston, certificates in sports marketing and advertising sales and marketing from New York University's School of Professional Studies. He's a member of the National Association for Multi-Ethnicity in Communications, and he's an avid supporter of that volunteer organization, or of the volunteer organization, New York Cares. He and his family live in Brooklyn, New York. Thank you for all that you've done and continue to do, and the leadership and skill and credibility you bring to the work that you're doing. Just another note too, before I ask you to say more, Brother James, the background is that U.S. small businesses have been particularly hard hit by this pandemic. And a recent study from the National Bureau of Economic Research found that the number of U.S. active business owners dropped from 15 million to 11.7 million between February and April of this year. And that study cited that Black-owned businesses were hardest hit, suffering the steepest decline, almost 41%, that followed by Hispanic and Asian-owned businesses. That sobering statistic alone speaks volumes to the need, but also speaks volume to Comcast's ability to be empathetic and to be a leader, and to also recognize the opportunity that healing and supporting these businesses supports the Comcast business mission as well. Speak to that if you would. Am I saying it right, first of all?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Comcast, for years, as you know, across the country, is a part of the communities. And, because they are a part of the communities, a part of these great cities across the country, they knew that, the way that small businesses go is the way that the community goes. So, these folks in our markets, they live and breathe. They live in Minnesota. They live in Minneapolis. These are residents, they don't want to see their cities going down either. Right. So anything that we can do, to help shore up, whether it's Internet Essentials or the lift zones that were just, recently launched. Internet Essentials has been going on for 10 years now. Providing low-cost internet service to those communities hit the hardest economically, just in general, and I know you did a nice piece on that before, but, Comcast really wants to kind of put their money where their mouth is. And in this scenario, we're not just putting our money where our mouth is, we're also putting our expertise where our mouth is in regards to the Comcast RISE program. Because again, shoring up these small businesses, and we've all seen it, unfortunately, during this, challenging time, in our communities. I see it all the time here in Brooklyn. You try to support as much as you can and get the takeout and delivery and go into your favorite restaurants, but sometimes they just can't sustain, unfortunately. And this program, that's why we're so excited about it, because we think that it can give people a lifeline and really help them.
Well, I'm so excited, James, because I'm in the field. My small business, Insight News, is our flagship operation, community newspaper, and we work every day with mom and pop businesses, small businesses, neighborhood businesses, and we know the crushing impact of the pandemic, and here in Minnesota, also the consequence of the George Floyd reaction rebellion. So we know that there's been devastation that is real. And we also know that these businesses are still vital and key to the health of our community, the growth of our community, to the sustainability of quality of life in our community, because they hire our people, our sons and daughters and neighbors and cousins and people from around the corner. We, as small businesses, really provide a tremendous service to the economy of a community. So for you guys to come in and to network with organizations like you're connecting with, I see my friend Ron Busby, who's president and CEO of the Black Chambers. He made comments about how important it is that Comcast RISE will step up and support Black businesses. I'm glad to see that you all are doing that. And I have to say that in Minnesota, you have been particularly in front of the curve, leading the curve through your relationship with the Minnesota Multicultural Media Consortium, supporting and marketing the Internet Essentials, but creating a wonderful set of relationships that help people be aware and access the resources that you have. And so one thing that has been lacking is small businesses' awareness and belief that they can engage modern technology to market and grow their businesses. You've opened the door. Talk about that if you would.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that people start their small business because they're passionate. They have a great idea. They love to cook. They got their grandmother's recipe that everybody says is excellent. So they open up a restaurant. You know, these folks in general, and I just walking the earth all the time, going to these small businesses, I'll just ask them about, you know, some of their output and their advertising efforts, you know, and some of them are like, oh, well, I just started the business. I don't really advertise that much.
Right.
To your point, local paper or something like that. And I'm like, you know, have you ever thought about television? What does your digital advertising look like? It doesn't take that much, but it does take knowledge. Yeah. And I think that, you know, these folks are in that suite, you know, and if we can offer up our expertise where we look at your website or something like that and say, hey, look, you know, you should be, you know, out there and rethink about the user experience, for example, you know, on somebody's website, those small little tweaks, you know, to somebody can grow their business, you know, like I said, exponentially. I think, you know, our bread and butter, of course, is television and digital. And, you know, we've seen it time and time again when we work with small business owners, because that's our bread and butter as well across the country for us, when they start advertising on TV. You know, cash register starts ringing, people start coming in the door, et cetera. And they didn't even realize, you know, it's almost like you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
So I think that as much as there's elements of the program and all different facets of the program that are there to help small businesses, one of the biggest tenets, which is the empowerment tenet, the E in RISE, is empowerment. And through empowerment, we look at the educational component of this entire program. You know, we're putting together a newsletter that'll probably be monthly, you know, for these small business owners. And it's just going to be, you know, information, because we know that you're 24/7 with this business. You don't have time to do research, you know, so we're going to offer it up in snack sized chunks for folks, you know, of pertinent information that we think that they should know about.
That's great. And so I think you hit the point on the head. People just don't have the idea that they are big enough or important enough to use something as powerful as television, because television is a real big thing. And it is a big thing, it really is. And so they see themselves as small or not ready when they really are. And so what is required is some coaching, and the missing piece is knowledge, awareness, information. And so for a company like Comcast, through Comcast RISE, to come out and provide that education, that coaching, that support, that direction, I think it's going to be a game changer for a lot of individual businesses, but I think it's going to be a game changer for the field. This is really bigger than just those hundreds of companies or maybe thousands that you'll be able to help for the next year or two, because as you provide that level of engagement, you're onboarding a whole class of entrepreneurs into the next level for their growth and for their development. You know, the kids know about social media. They've turned the world upside down. That's why the George Floyd movement and the Black Lives Matter movement and things like that are so powerful, because they intuitively, and they were born into this new technology arena that we oldsters, I put myself in that, you're not where I am, but people my age just are curious about it and putting our toes in the water. But the young people get it and they know it. So the question is, how do we create that bridge so that this vitality and this invigorating and positive engagement that they have discovered, and power they've discovered through social media, can be institutionalized in a way that entrepreneurs and mid-level small businesses can also utilize these skills to grow their businesses. And that's kind of what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, part of that consultation that we're putting together as one of the tenets of the program is kind of doing a deep dive into that, because it is awareness and it is understanding. Because I think that, you know, and I will put myself in that bucket of people are afraid of social media because they don't know what they don't know, right? They might know print, radio, and television because that's what they grew up with, but the outlet of social media and just the awareness play of social media for some of these small businesses can be massive, you know, in terms of growing their business. And I think that you touched upon it earlier. One of the questions that we ask directly in the application is, you know, what benefit to the community, you know, what impact to the community would getting some of these services provide? And our hope is that, to your earlier point, they get some of these services, they start growing their business, they start employing more people in the community. And that's really the end goal. And that's what I get excited about. Mm-hmm. Really, it's that engagement, because with that engagement, as we know, when people are employed and they see that entrepreneur and small business owner, they interact with them and they start getting ideas of like, oh, well, maybe I could start my own business as I get older, when they're, you know, in their teen years, et cetera. So mm-hmm. It kind of starts that whole fundamentals of education, you know, of a small business and entrepreneurial spirit. But if we don't have that and people don't have that outlet locally, then, you know, they're going to learn it from a textbook. And, you know, I mean, for the most part, we don't get inspired by textbooks.
James Lavallee, where are you from? Where's your home?
I was born in Boston, and I actually grew up in Manchester, New Hampshire.
Okay. And then what put you on the path that brought you to where you are right now? How have you developed into the executive that you are today?
It was a long road. So as I just stated, I, you know, grew up in Manchester, New Hampshire. I was probably one of the only Black people in New Hampshire. You know, so there was a lot of firsts in that regard. My whole family is blue collar, worked in a lot of factories in my hometown. And that's really, you know, where I started. I went to college in Boston, which was the next biggest city, you know, in our area. And then, you know, that kind of opened my eyes to some opportunities and got to meet some alumni who were talking about, you know, working in sports. And I was an athlete. I ran track in college and after college. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So that's kind of what drew me to the NYU program, which brought me to New York. And then somebody graduated, a sister actually graduated from the program right before me. Professor put me in touch with her. They were like, hey, we're looking for an executive assistant. I just needed to get my foot in the door because, like I just stated, I'm from New Hampshire and I didn't have any inroads to any corporate anything. Yeah. So I just knew if I could get my foot in the door and work hard, maybe I could, you know, make something of this from a career standpoint. But yeah, a sister got me in, and like I said, I was an executive assistant, and then just kind of worked my way and tried to learn every aspect of the business as much as I could.
Mm-hmm. What advice do you have for both professionals and entrepreneurs? You're working sort of both sides of the arena as a corporate executive yourself. So hopefully somebody who's young and listening will say, you know what, I can be like him. And you are working with businesses like mine through the Comcast RISE program. What advice and direction from you personally would you give them?
I would say from a young professional or somebody even in college, you know, always have that willingness to learn, and you're never too old to learn. And even when I shifted my career, because I was always on the national network side, as you were stating before, from NBC and Discovery, et cetera, when I shifted to this side of Comcast, this is the local side. And I didn't know anything about the local side, right? Having spent 20 plus years on the national side. So I really dug in, and it was like going to a master's program. You know, I wanted to learn every aspect of this side of the business, and it was a lot. And it was a lot of nights and, you know, reading and extra. So never lose that educational component of trying to make yourself better. You know, we can always learn no matter how old we are. And in regards to working with small business owners, I would say that for a small business owner, when you're working with any, you know, vendor, as we're seeing in the space, make sure that it's under the guise of partnership, because that's what we really instill, on our side of the business, that I'm not going in there to sell you media. I'm not going in there to sell you a product or something. I'm going in there to tell me about your business, Al. I want to know about it because I want you to succeed. And if you're not genuine with wanting to have that need, then don't talk to those people. They should be there to really push you and in the direction of success, not just selling you something. And I think that's key for any, folks that I talk to on the small business side. I want to make them succeed. If you win, then I win because I did my job right.
That's wonderful. Let me ask you to close on this. We're about 3 minutes from closing the interview, and thank you so much for your words and your wisdom. I am just so impressed with the nomenclature, the name, the narrative or the identity, representation, investment, strength, and empowerment. That's what Comcast RISE is: representation, investment, strength, and empowerment. So let me let you wax eloquent on that for the next 30 seconds or so. Go deep on that and why it means something, why those words and those ideas hang together around the mission that you are launching right now.
Absolutely. So representation in our eyes stands for it's really the lack of representation that we see these small business owners having in media, right? And in our media, it's television, right? So we're hoping to increase representation on television and awareness for these small business owners and their businesses. So that's kind of the R in representation. The investment portion is pretty much straightforward. That's going to be the grant program that's going to be launching in late November on this next round, and then for the rest of the program.
How big is the grant program? I've talked about it before, but you can say it again.
Yeah, it's going to be $10,000 per award, and there's going to be a number of those given away per quarter.
Okay. And it's part of a bigger package. I think it's $100 million.
There was $100 million investment. From Brian Roberts.
That's significant. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Which is huge. Yeah. And it's, we're just a small portion of it. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
But yeah, so the investment portion is the grant program. The strength is really shoring up that technical infrastructure through our Comcast business team. And, it's strength in the, the Wi-Fi, the security, all of that stuff, and strengthening and empowering that infrastructure is kind of the way we're looking at it. And then the E is the empowerment, which is the educational component of the RISE program. So that the newsletter and the outreach that we were talking about, and just providing those resources. The cool part is if for those Comcast X1 Xfinity customers right now, if they say Comcast RISE into their voice remote, it would actually take you to the RISE area where you could see right now, again, we're solely focused on Black small business owners, but you could see some content surrounding that empowerment, which kind of floats into 3 buckets, which is education, inspiration, and entertainment. So there'll be like features and shows that kind of deal with those type of things right now, but it'll continue to grow throughout the program.
Well, this has been a wonderful interview. Thank you so much, James Lavallee, Vice President, Marketing and Sales Development at Effect TV, which is formerly Comcast Spotlight. Thank you for what you're doing and for your story. And disclosure, your company and mine are in business together. So we thank you for being customers of Insight News and McFarlane Media. And further disclosure, and I'm really trying to stack the deck in my favor, I can tell you that I applied for this immediately. I applied before I wrote the story because I think it's worth going for. So I'm taking care of me first, and then I'm sharing this with everybody else. So I think, and I say that sort of with the sense of shameless promotion, I think this is a good idea, and I'm saying go for it. So listen, thank you so much.
No problem, Alan. I'll tell everybody, go to ComcastRISE.com and please apply today and apply often. And again, if you don't get into this round, reapply, please.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I'm Al McFarlane. This is Conversations with Al McFarlane. We do this every day. If you like this program, subscribe to us on YouTube, like us on Facebook, share it with your friends. And this actual interview will also be part of our daily newsletter, the Insight Culture newsletter that comes out at the end of each day. If you want to subscribe to that, reach out to us at al@insightnews.com. We'll hook you up. Take care. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was awesome.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.